Welcome back, traders and investors, to Benzinga's pre-market prep, brought to you by MarketFi. I'm your co-host Joel Elconin, along with Brianna Valesky, and we have Serge Berger on the line. He's head trader and investment strategist at the Steady Trader. He also has a product on MarketFi, Steady Trader as well. You should check that out. Serge, how you doing today?
Good morning, guys. Happy Monday morning.
Yeah,
How was
we're
your weekend?
it was good, exciting, derby fight, a lot of good stuff going on here, but nothing quite as exciting as that reversal in the market on Friday. Follow through here in today's session, back over 2100 in the S&P futures. Surge, how you playing it?
I think it was one of those classic traps. Last week we talked about on the show, we talked about my Contra stream on Twitter. My Twitter stream again got very, very bearish after last Thursday. Sure enough, we came in on Friday. We had that little first of the month pop. And so far this morning, we're holding up. Looks like we're up 25 basis points here in the SPOOs. Particularly interesting, I thought, was the bullish reversals in the actual futures contract. If you look at the SPOOs, like the ES on a daily basis, actually really it was a real true bullish reversal day, like an outside day. A lot of other important parts of the market held up. The transports, particularly, we can talk about that in more detail. The Russell 2000, by the way, a lot of people got really bearish on that, and I see that. But all it's done is retraced back to its breakout level from earlier this year. So it's not really falling apart so much. It's just basically mean reverted.
Okay, and let's go. You talked about the transports when we had you on last week, and are they getting up off the mat here?
Yeah, I mean, I think again, what we talked about last week was sort of the bigger picture concerns I'm seeing in the transports, and I still very much agree with that. We had a non-confirmation from a Dow theory point of view. In other words, the transports didn't confirm the new highs in the Dow itself for this year. But in the meantime, we had a bullish reversal last Friday. If you look at the IYT ETF, I'm sure you can pull that up. So I think we have to be a little bit more selective within the transports. Like to me, if I look at something like some of the rails, like CSX in particular, I mean, that's an absolute beauty. The way it reversed after nearly falling apart a week and a half ago or so, or 2 weeks ago now, but after earnings, that's a really, really bullish statement, particularly on a week-over-week basis. Very, very bullish weekly reversal 2 weeks ago. Last week will follow through buying. That I can't ignore that. Regardless of how bearish I think the transports are signaling us through a multi-month lens, I think in the near term this is pretty bullish.
And what do you think? Price of oil had a little bit to do with that, with the decline in the
Mhm.
transports?
No, for sure, for sure. And I think, if you look at the stuff that's popping, it's, you look, some of the material stuff we talked about last week as well, some of the steel names we talked about, was it AK Steel, Schnitzer Steel, all those names I still think look very good. Some of the energy, oil services stocks continue to look good as well. I'm actually along the OIH myself right now in full transparency. So it's obviously a lot of it's still correlated to that dollar,
Yeah, that's
and
nice kind of rounding bottom coming up there to fill a gap. And we talk a lot about sector rotation, kind of like the leaders into the laggards. And you're mentioning that AK Steel. How about the move in Alcoa on Friday?
yeah, absolutely. I saw that. Just put that on this morning's watch list. Actually, it's been on my radar for quite a while. If you look at it, what's done, it's sort of, you talk about rounding bottoms. If you look at Alcoa, it sort of snuck below the in early March. What did it do? It early to sort of mid to late March. It went below the October lows of 14. Right, started basing, and last Friday's rally took it right back above that trend line if you were to draw a horizontal line from the October lows over. Also back above its 50-day. Again, obviously we need to see this whole. One day isn't going to make a trend, but if this thing get above Friday's highs, it might have another room for another dollar or so. Mean reversion back to the 200-day, something like that.
Yeah, then you might get like some analysts coming in, pounding the table on it. It's
Sure.
things like that can certainly change the complexion of a stock. But had a nice move. Just going into some of these stocks that have earnings this week. The Tesla monster here, kind of hanging out after the big run up. Is Tesla something on your radar?
My general thing is I don't really hold trading positions through earnings announcement.
Okay.
After trading this for 17 years, I know that it basically doesn't add up unless you have some crazy option skew. It's something that brokers like to tout. But I do think Tesla's one of those stocks that definitely can get back on its feet. It just we need to see what the earnings have to do. And that's the sad reality of the 2015 U.S. stock market. If you look at the meaningful moves that have happened on a single stock basis, almost all of them, and obviously I'm exaggerating here, but the vast majority of the important moves all came after earnings announcements. There's almost no way to play the stocks on like a fundamental or even like a real structural basis unless you're willing to hold it through an earnings announcement and basically somehow deal with a binomial outcome.
Tommy Lackey in the chat, the anti-dollar trade from a month ago, the UUP, the dollar had the big run up, a little bit of the culprit for some weaker Q4 earnings. Now the dollar is coming back here. It's just a little retracement here. Look at that, a little bit of support forming in the UUP here. What's your outlook on the dollar and its effect on some of these issues that have a lot of exposure to the U.S. dollar?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, to me, the big surprise this earnings season has actually been what we saw in terms of the reaction thus far. And I actually think the more important reaction, by the way, tends to happen once the earnings season is almost over. And I think we're slowly getting there in terms of the indices. But what's been surprising to me is that we've actually had underperformance of the Russell versus the S&P. I actually thought we'd see the other way around. I didn't have a trade on that because, again, I don't like to gamble through earnings season. But that's basically been the surprise to me. And I think part of that's just been because of the weakening dollar, right? So the weakening dollar has actually made S&P companies look a little better if you ignore the earnings because, just like the opposite, if the dollar rallied, the S&P companies are more exposed to that as opposed to the Russell. And so we had the inverse happening. But I do think the dollar isn't done yet. I do think we see another move higher. But like with anything, I like to see a bullish reversal first take place, a meaningful one. And I personally, I'm not going to look at the UUP. I'm going to look at the futures or the dollar index, just because the UUP doesn't usually give you extremely visually obvious turnaround points for whatever reason. That's my personal opinion.
Okay, Alibaba got down to that $80 level due to report earnings this week. Stock has really been in a trading range here. What you looking for out of Alibaba?
Baba's been frustrating, to put it lightly. And I think, like, to me, there was one real nice day that we had on the 4th of March that we had that bullish reversal day, but the stock just never actually managed to get above the 86 area on like a meaningful closing basis. So, that never happened. I mean, it happened for one day basically. And then actually, I don't think it happened on a one day, maybe barely, but it didn't really happen. Right. So to me, that's still, if I'm not going to get long until we get out of this chop, or let's say like to me, the absolute favorite thing to happen in Baba here was if it fell apart, gave us a massive bullish reversal like 2 days after earnings, then I'd love to try it alongside. Otherwise, unless we get above 86, I'm not really interested in it right now.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at this thing, on the $80 level, and I don't know what happened on Friday, but I guess 80.11, 80.03 had been the former lows of the move, and I turned around on Friday, and this thing went to 80.11 and had a couple lows at the 80.17 and then the all-time low at 80.03. But I kind of like that call on this one. Like, let's say they come out with a bad report and they flush everybody out that's been leaning on 80, right? Yeah. And then come back up. I mean, we were talking with Scott Redler, Red Dog reversal. That's a good scenario on it.
Sure.
How do you look at it? Still trading, well above its IPO price, too. I mean, remember, it was supposed to go off 65, 70 bucks. Ended up hitting 100 on the first day. Is that something you keep in the back of your mind when, you're trying to, to pick a bottom or build a position in a stock like Alibaba?
I like your pronunciation. Yeah, look, I think you have to keep that in the back of your mind. At the end of the day, there's still a lot of emotions involved. I mean, let's keep in mind the stock's been a publicly traded company since last September. It's not exactly been around a whole lot of time. So to me, like, it's classic. If you look at the stock, to me, I look at it and I see, okay, we had a honeymoon phase where the stock ramped higher basically a few weeks after the IPO, topped out in November, and then basically just like the air came out of it, deflated, very much like what happened to Facebook and a whole bunch of other recent year IPOs. I don't see a whole lot of has changed. What this stock needs is a game changer post earnings report move. Facebook had it Twitter had it, LinkedIn had it. And again, this obviously isn't a social media stock, but all these stocks had it. Baba hasn't had it. They need that real confirmation move. And until that happens, I just don't see how you can really own this stock for more than a trade.
Okay, before we let you go, I know you a lot. You spent a lot of time in the banking industry and stuff. I know you keep a close eye on some of these stocks. Not real, big movers, but some of them have been posting some good returns. Just any thoughts on like the XLE or is there anything, in the banking sector here
Hmm.
that's looking a little cheap to you?
Yeah, I guess you meant the XLF, right?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yeah, the slug
Okay, no
spreader.
worries, no worries. No, no, listen, very important. I've been pounding the table on that all year. The XLF this morning is actually partially trying to sneak out of a multi-day trading range. Um, but look, the financials to me need to give me some sort of leadership. If they can't give us leadership, it's going to be very difficult for the broader market to get to start moving. The financial have been stuck the XLF's been stuck in a horrendous trading range after the early February rally. Look at the BKX, it's the KBW Bank Index, looking better this morning, but it's still technically stuck in a range. So unless the financials can get something going on the upside, it's just very difficult for the market to do anything. By the way, look at Twitter, it's up 2% here on the open. Um, maybe finally get that oversold bounce we talked about last week.
Yeah, you got an upgrade that's playing into
Yep.
that. So good factor here. Yeah, it's an interesting one here. I'd still like to see it, make it double bottom or something to
Yeah,
lean
yeah,
on.
I
I'm
agree.
very interested in this one. I played it in the last earnings report, and it's a good mover. I know Dennis is looking for the 35s and stuff, but Price has a lot of memory, and we were down in this area. Before I let you go, though, Rob Hood in the chat wants to know if you have any thoughts on Federal Express, FDX.
Yeah, so FedEx, it to me kind of falls in line with what I said earlier about some of the transports. It's a stock that keeps holding in there. If you look at the way it reacted for after earnings, holding its 200-day very nicely there and gapping up on the 7th of April. It's back above its 50-day, which is a kind of a weak reference level for FedEx. But I would like to see it get above 174 ish before making a call to 180 because its technical is still kind of stuck here, but I like it, and I like it. Look at this spruce taking off here, up 40 basis
Yeah, what are
points.
you doing in there, Serge? Did you like? No, it did. I mean, we're getting follow through the
Yeah,
pre-market high here.
yeah.
Really, if you want to level on the upside, Serge, just going back to last week, we had a couple highs at 1250, and we could be there before you get off the show. But we've been on we've been on the line with Serge Berger. He's a head trader and investment strategist at the Steady Trader. He also has a product on MarketFi. If you like what you're hearing from Serge, you should check that out. Thanks a lot, Serge, and we'll be talking to you again soon.
Thanks, guys. Have a great week.